When my folks decided they were going to adopt Lily, I could tell the chaos was about to unfold. On my birthday, she'd be all like, Samantha's lucky to have real parents who throw her a party, unlike me, whose parents are gone. When I had a boyfriend, she'd say, Samantha's got cash, so it's cool for him to choose her, unlike me, who's stuck relying on others. And that's exactly how both my parents and my boyfriend turned their backs on me. Before I crashed in a car accident, I heard her say, Samantha just had a fender bender, but I only got one coming-of-age ceremony in my life. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Lily tiptoeing into the house. I cracked a smile. In my past life, a manipulative woman had framed me. I was originally my parents' only daughter, the rightful heir. But Lily, an orphan with both parents deceased, played the pity card by pretending to be sweet and helpless, successfully sneaking into our family. Her half-hearted act of innocence totally fooled everyone around me. So, on the day of my tragic car crash, my family and boyfriend overlooked my lifeless body, took my money, and threw a grand coming-of-age party for her. It almost tore me apart with hatred. Opening my eyes once more, I saw Lily standing at the doorstep with a small, worn-out bag. This scene was way too familiar. It was Lily's first day being adopted. As expected, she said the same stuff she did before. Uncle, Auntie, can I really come in? I've never been to such a nice place before. Her dad was my dad's childhood buddy, and even though they hadn't seen each other in years, they were tight. So when his daughter became an orphan and looked all pitiful, my dad kindly took her in. Of course you can. This place is your home now. She carefully changed her shoes, sat next to me, and nailed the role of the sad little girl. So this is Samantha, huh? Just like Uncle and Auntie said, so pretty, like a princess. Unlike in my past life where I'd comfort her and promise her everything I could, this time I didn't hesitate to push back. What do my fancy clothes have to do with you? Are you some beggar needing charity for outfits? My parents were speechless. They couldn't grasp how their always well-behaved and sensible daughter suddenly turned rebellious. Lily's eyes flickered, almost revealing her act. I don't need fancy clothes. I don't care what I wear. Having a home is already awesome. Just hope Samantha doesn't hate me and lets me have a place to crash. Glancing at her, I shot back bluntly, when did I say I hate you? And I never said you couldn't stay here. Trying to tug at my parents with her pity talk or to act like a victim to gain their sympathy, she paused for a second, then quickly recovered. Lowering her head, she mumbled, I'm sorry, didn't mean that. Please don't get me wrong. The vibe got awkward, and my parents stepped in to smooth things out. Samantha, you're overthinking it. She wouldn't mean that, right? All right. Since Lily is new here, let her chill first. I had predicted my parents' reactions. They'd always been blind to people's true motives, acting purely on feelings. But I didn't care. I'd been hurt enough before. As my parents led Lily to her room, she glanced happily at my bedroom. Wow, this must be sister's room. So big, bigger than our living room. Samantha is so lucky, unlike me, always sharing a room with my mom. My mom's eyes filled with tears as she turned to me. Samantha, why not give her your room? After all, I stood up and covered her mouth. After all what? After all, she's your daughter? After all, it's my fault she had to share a room with her mom since she was a kid? After all, her family is broke because I stole money from them? My mom was speechless, and Lily was stunned for a moment. I walked straight into the room, saying, You want to adopt her? That's your business, but don't interfere with me. My stuff is mine, and I'm not handing it over to anyone. Not because I'm arrogant, but because I know what I'm doing. My family used to be broke, and I used to share a room with my mom, but I hustled hard, aced my studies, and scored a scholarship of $100,000 in middle school. I also had a knack for investments and never messed up a single one. So I made a bold move back then. I didn't tell my family about the money and used it for investments. After 2 or 3 years of careful work, I hit $400,000. I kept $100,000 as a base and gave the rest to my parents to buy a house in the city center. The timing was perfect, and the property value shot up. After selling it, we bought another house in a new spot. Each time, I picked locations low and sold high, stacking up a good amount of wealth for my family. Safe to say, my family's current status is all thanks to me. They wanted to use my comfort to tone down their pity towards Lily. I couldn't agree to that. During dinner, Lily started acting up again. This fish looks so yummy. I've never had such delicious fish before, but Samantha's tastes are different. I can only have dried shrimps during the new year. It's really awkward. I snorted and shoved the bowl of food away from her. I've never eaten such tasty fish before, so I better eat more while I can. The free meals won't last forever. If you can't handle it, then don't eat. Eating a lot and still complaining? Aren't you being cheap? I don't know if I'm a princess, but you're definitely not one. Lily looked at my parents with teary eyes, biting her lip. My parents coughed lightly. Samantha, you're being too harsh, I sneered. I can't believe you all can't see it. She's as fake as a peacock, and yet you're all hanging on her like she's handing out scraps. My parents held their breath. Samantha, go back to your room and think about what you said. Think about what? I didn't do anything wrong. What's there to think about? If she keeps acting so fake, I'll lock her in the utility room to reflect. Maybe my tone was off because the other three at the table stayed silent, keeping their mouths shut. After dinner and heading back to my room, I grabbed my phone and checked the latest stock market trends. The sea of red numbers made me happy. Suddenly, I remembered this point in my past life. It must be around the second monthly exam in senior year. I dialed my best friend's number. Emily, can I come over to your place to study for a bit? Her parents weren't home much, so we often hit her spot to study. The house was a mess, but I couldn't skip my studies. Sure, she chuckled. Your call came just in time. When I got to her place, I realized what she meant by timing. They were supposed to be hanging out with a bunch of classmates in the living room. And of course, Mike was there too, my clueless boyfriend, just as easily fooled by Lily as my biological parents. When he saw me, he rushed over with concern. Why didn't you answer when I called? You're hot from the trip? I got you some water. He handed me the water, and I brushed it off without a smile. He looked confused, sitting outside like a statue until I headed to the bedroom to study. As Emily came in, full of gossip. What's up between you and Mike? Why are you ignoring him again? How did our handsome and charming Mike manage to upset you? How did he upset me? Too many reasons. He gave Lily the notes I worked on for a year. He ditched me on Valentine's Day to give Lily an umbrella. He used the money I gave him to buy gifts for Lily. He celebrated Lily's birthday the day I died. And the list goes on. This time, I just wanted to set things straight with him. Emily kept pushing, but a knock on the door cut her off. She went to answer it. A few seconds later, silence fell outside, followed by a timid voice reaching my ears. Excuse me, is my sister Samantha here? Looks like she was here to find me, but her fake innocence, along with her habitual hair twirling and hip swinging, seemed to say, pay attention to me. Hello, I'm Lily, Samantha's little sister. Emily really thought she was my sister, warmly inviting her in and gesturing for me to come out. Lily saw me and quickly grabbed my hand. Maybe the crowd made her instantly teary-eyed. Lily, you came here. Uncle and Aunt are worried about you. Let's go home, okay? You know my parents are still alive, unlike yours. You should cherish what you have so you don't make Uncle and Aunt sad. You all have families, but I don't. I really wish I had a family. How mature and gentle her words sounded. It made me sick to my stomach. Feeling annoyed, I couldn't help but lash out. Yeah, why do other people's parents have it good while yours died? Is it your bad karma that killed your parents? Of course, I cherish my family so no one can take advantage of me for free. The room went silent. Everyone was probably baffled why I'd say such harsh words to this seemingly pitiful girl. But who would say such cruel things to someone who looks so innocent? But who would have thought that this seemingly innocent and sad girl had pushed her own parents into a fire to save herself during an actual fire, just to get rescued first by the firefighters? Only after I died did I uncover this truth. The more venomous a person is, the better they're at faking it. Right now, tears streamed down her face as she said, Samantha, you might hate me, but you can't insult my parents. I rolled my eyes at her. Who's insulting your parents anyway? I don't keep bringing up dead people to get sympathy from others. She was stunned, unsure how to respond. Even Emily realized things had gone south and quickly separated us. Your sister doesn't seem to want to leave. Why don't you go back first and tell Uncle and Aunt she's staying at my place? Don't worry, she's safe here. Lily wiped her tears, looking determined. If I can't bring my sister back, then I won't go back either. Samantha, just go back. I won't stay at your house, all right? I can go to an orphanage. If I can't bring my sister back, then I won't go back either. Jessica, just go back. I won't stay at your house, all right? I can go to an orphanage. Some classmates couldn't stand it and suggested, Samantha, just go back for now. She looks really pitiful. Her parents are gone, and your family is so rich. What's the harm in supporting her? A hint of unknowable triumph flashed in Lily's eyes. Yeah, she does look pretty pitiful. With your saintly heart, why not take her in? What difference does it make to your family? Another classmate, red-faced, interjected, I'm just trying to help. Glancing at Lily, trying to help? If you're not even willing to support her, then don't burden others with your fake kindness. The room went silent, all eyes on me. Lily cried pitifully, Samantha, you can't insult me like this. Enough. Samantha's got money. She can do whatever she wants, unlike me, who hasn't even had a decent meal from childhood to adulthood. I frowned as I listened. I have money, but I'm not a target for fortune to rain gold from the sky. Why haven't you ever eaten decent food? Did you have bad luck in your past life? Are you a reincarnation of a disaster? She paused her sobbing for a few seconds before continuing. This time, there was a hint of sincerity in her voice as she choked back tears. Samantha, I raised an eyebrow at her. What's wrong? Can't keep up the act anymore. Maybe I was too aggressive, or maybe Mike overestimated his place in my heart. Even in this situation, he dares to act all high and mighty. Samantha, I remember you as a very gentle and kind girl. How can you bully another poor girl like this? If you don't want to take her in, there's no need to insult her. Actually, just hearing these words, there was nothing wrong with them. But when I thought of all the rotten things he did in my past life, I just couldn't control my temper. I'm not insulting her. So how about I insult you? She pitifully played innocent, fooling people like you who lack brains. Mike was extremely shocked, looking at me as he reached out his hand. Oh, and the card I gave you? Give it back now. Who knows if you'll take my money to pity her out of the goodness of your heart. Blushing, he took out his bank card from his pocket, feeling embarrassed but wanting to argue anyway. A few classmates pulled him back and signaled him, so he awkwardly sat down. In the end, nobody dared to speak up for Lily anymore. Hurry back. Don't be a nuisance here. I'm not at home, so you can entertain my parents. Seeing my bad mood, Emily also gave me the signal to leave. You go back first. Lily wasn't completely shameless either. In a situation that didn't benefit her, she naturally didn't want to stay a second longer and left with her tail between her legs. I stayed at Emily's place for a few days and told her a lot about the situation. So she's a scheming woman. I knew something was off. She's a scheming woman. Something's not right. You've never been like this with anyone else. We've been best friends for years, and she still trusts me. After I died in the past life, she was the first one to rush to the scene and stay by my body. Don't get too close to her. She's the type who takes but doesn't give. Not for forming cliques. This is sincere advice from me. Emily hugged my shoulder with a grin. Of course, who wants to hang out with a fake? Changing the subject with a smile. By the way, there's a good stock to watch lately. Your family should check it out. On Monday, we went to school together. Lily sat in the classroom, sweetly greeting me. It seemed like she had gained a lot these past few days, prompting her parents to transfer her to our school a few weeks earlier. I ignored her and went to my own seat. Everyone was curious about this new student, constantly approaching her with questions. Her voice was just loud enough for me to hear. I'm now adopted by Samantha's parents. She's my sister now. So Samantha used to go to such a good school. The playground at my old school wasn't even as big as this classroom. Dad said all the money is with her, so I can't afford her fancy backpacks and stationery, but I will study hard and not be a burden. Many people looked at her with pity, and a few stole glances at me. Coolly, I responded, then why bother studying? If you're so keen on fancy backpacks and stationery, drop out and work. If you make big money, you can even help fix up the big playground at your old school. At such a young age, with such high ambitions, why stay at my house, spending my money on education and buying stationery? Everyone turned to look at me, a few hesitating to speak. Lily started crying again. All right, I'll be quiet now. In Samantha's eyes, everything I say is wrong. I smiled. Good. Now just stay silent and be at peace. She sobbed, breathing weakly as if she was about to faint. Mike walked over to me with a grim look. Samantha, you're going too far. I never knew you were this kind of person. She's so pitiful. Can't you be a bit more compassionate? I stood up, staring at him coldly. Is she your mom or your sister? She's asking for trouble herself, and you're itching to join in? If you care about her so much, then lock yourselves away. Don't come out and talk about people. Thanks, but no thanks. I didn't know what was going through Mike's mind, but suddenly he smirked. I knew it, Samantha. You must be jealous. This is only our second meeting. We have nothing going on. Don't overthink it. Don't be so antagonistic towards her because of me. I'll feel guilty. This time it was my turn to be surprised. I knew Mike was trash, but I didn't know he was so full of himself. Maybe he'd always been like this, and I just had rose-tinted glasses in my past life. Mike, please do yourself a favor and look at yourself in the mirror. You're targeting her for me. She can handle it on her own. If you really feel guilty, just apologize to her quickly. Mike clenched his fists in anger, and I waved him off. Please move. We're starting class soon. You're blocking my view of the blackboard. I didn't spare anyone's feelings. Lily behaved herself for a few days. On my birthday, I booked a restaurant, and my classmates came one by one to celebrate with me. Emily came with a dozen classmates, bringing birthday gifts one after another. I accepted them all, thanked them, and reciprocated. After a while, my parents and Lily arrived, along with Mike and a few other classmates standing next to her, looking at me coldly. Lily ran over empty-handed with an innocent smile on her face. Samantha, I'm sorry, I didn't bring a gift because I don't have much money. Happy birthday. I hadn't invited her but couldn't exclude my parents. I responded indifferently. Thanks? Her well wishes felt fake, so I gave them 0 points. She felt wronged and muttered, Samantha, do you think I'm poor and didn't bring you a gift? I replied impatiently, do you look dumb but think a lot in your brain? I said 2 words and you tagged me with such a long label. Emily seemed disgusted by her act and couldn't help but speak up. Samantha never mentioned gifts from the start. Who are you performing for? And even if you don't have any money, at least you could have made a card. You came here unprepared. Don't even get basic etiquette. Who do you want to pity you? Lily bit her lip, tears welling up, and Mike stepped forward. Maybe because of his age, he thinks of himself as a hero, with determination in his eyes, standing a bit taller. Do you all think you can bully Samantha because you have the numbers? I scoffed. I didn't invite her. She came looking for trouble on her own, just like you. Sir Knight, please take your princess and leave. My parents frowned. Samantha, how did you suddenly become like this? We already told you. Lily's got it tough. What did you do to her? I pointed to the door. You can dote on her slowly outside. My dad raised his hand high, and I stared sharply. What right do you have to hit me? Samantha quickly put on a sensible look. Samantha, don't be like this. You have so many people celebrating your birthday. They all love you. Don't make it too unpleasant. Unlike me, dependent on others, no one cares about me. I stared intently at her. Samantha, why do you love to show off so much, turning everything into a show about yourself? Would it be noble to kill your own parents? So it's worth publicizing? This time, Samantha truly cried. She hadn't gained any advantage from me these past few times, yet she was still so persistent. Talking about calling her cheap now, I was afraid she'd be delighted. My parents turned cold, looked at me, and shook their heads. You really disappoint us. Lily, let's go. Mike also looked at me with disdain. Let's see how long you can stay arrogant. They left with their entourage. Emily comforted me. Don't mind them. Once Uncle and Aunt and Mike see her true colors, they'll definitely be on your side. Maybe one day her true colors will show, but whether they stand by me or not doesn't matter anymore. The birthday party was super fun. Games, food, wishes, all captured and posted on social media. The next day in class, Lily was scrolling through my social media on her phone, looking dreamily at Mike beside her. Samantha's birthday party was really lively. I wish I could have a party like that someday. Mike clenched his fists. Don't worry, I'll definitely give you an even grander birthday party. I chuckled. Probably gotta wait until her 80th birthday celebration. Mike's family was average, just an ordinary high school kid whose allowance from his parents wasn't enough for his expenses. He used to ask me for money often. thinking I was loaded, spending extravagantly to keep up a fake image of my family's wealth. Now he was unsure of his own status, so confidently making promises easily, probably never felt the frustration of being stuck with gum yet. 10 minutes later, class started. The test scores were out, and I stayed the top student in the grade. The school awarded a $2,000 scholarship to the top three, a rule set by the school. After class, Lily sighed casually, pretending to be disappointed. Too bad, I'm just fourth. If only I could get that scholarship, I wouldn't have to bother uncle and aunt for pocket money next month. You've got plenty of money, so you wouldn't care about this $2,000, right? Mike's eyes were full of pity, and when he looked at me, there was a sense of moral superiority. Samantha, you don't lack that money. Why not give the scholarship to her? It'd be a good deed. I looked at him in surprise. I don't lack that money, but the school only gives it to the top three. What can I do? Too bad. Why not work a bit harder? If I place in the top three, I won't have to beg everywhere, right? Mike's teeth clenched in frustration, unable to respond. In the evening, I planned to stay at Emily's place. After all, my own place was a mess, but I realized I'd left my laptop at home and decided to go back to grab it. When I got home, I found my parents acting suspiciously in my room. I walked quietly to the door, making them jump. What are you doing? They exchanged glances with awkward smiles. Oh, nothing. We were just tidying up your room. I smirked, pulling out a bank card from my bag. Looking for this? All the money in here is what I earned. If you want to take care of Lily, I'm not giving you a penny. They were exasperated. We've never seen a daughter like you. We raised you for nothing. Maybe it was anger that gave them the courage, and they hurried out. I packed up all my valuables, ready to leave. I didn't want to stay at home. Might as well buy a new house. As I stepped out, I ran into Lily coming home from school. No wonder she was walking so slow. She was busy flirting with Mike beside her. When they saw me, their faces changed, their hands suddenly let go, and the lips that had just met started trembling, leaving an awkward vibe. I grinned and apologized for interrupting them. Spring hadn't arrived yet, so I felt a little awkward. Mike glared at me angrily and left. Without the crowd, Samantha also stopped pretending. She glanced at the box in my hand and suddenly got furious. What did you take from home? Who gave you the right to take things? I found it amusing. What's it to you what I take? Besides, wasn't everything at home bought with my money? Since I became wealthy, my parents only managed to find part-time jobs and barely made ends meet each month with a meager salary, but Lily had always been wrong from the start. She stubbornly believed that the money at home belonged to my parents. What are you pretending for? How can you possibly have that much money? I see. You must be worried that your parents are favoring me, right? I assured her. I will fully win their love and kick you out like a dog. I smirked. Only fools would believe you. She was shocked. How did you know? Then she looked around, saw no one there, and regained her confidence. So what? I survived, didn't I? They deserve to live just so I can thrive. I'll take everything from you and make you beg like a dog. I waved my hand and walked away. Later, I bought a newly renovated small apartment for myself to prepare for exams. During this time, my parents often called asking for money, but I ignored them. The school gave us 2 days off before exams so we could prepare. Emily and other friends gathered around my desk, excitedly discussing where to go after the college entrance exam. Of course, we should go to the beach. It's hot this month, but it'd be so nice to see the sea, feel the sea breeze, they suggested, mentioning that flight tickets were on sale so we could save some cash. I intentionally spoke loudly, making sure Lily could hear. As expected, Lily, who always had wild ideas, sighed with a sense of injustice. Samantha is so lucky. Unlike me, I can only work during the summer. I've never been to those beautiful places. Surprisingly, Mike didn't bother me this time. He just clenched his teeth and made empty promises. Don't be sad, when I have some free time, I'll take you there. I felt relieved. Now Mike finally knew that to protect the woman he loved, he had to rely on his own hustle. Lily's eyes sparkled. Not only did you promise to organize my birthday party, but you also planned a trip to the beach. Mike, you're amazing. Mike fell into deep thought, maybe worrying about his financial situation. Lily feared that Mike would change his mind. Mike, you won't break your promise, will you? Mike hesitated. I'll figure something out. I stood up, stretched lazily. Emily, pack up and let's go. We might not be coming back to this classroom anymore. I looked around and walked out, purposely leaving my wallet behind except for some coins. It only had a bank card that I'd taken back from Mike with the same old password. After the exams, outside the examination room, Lily hugged Mike ecstatically. "You're so amazing." When Mike saw me, he tried to avoid eye contact. I walked past them with a slight smile on my face. "Perfect. The fish took the bait." Mike was taken to the police station, and his parents followed. When he saw me, he hung his head in shame, unable to look me in the eye. The police informed me they found my wallet at his house, along with his expense records for flight tickets, hotel bookings, and attraction tickets on his phone. In just a few days, he'd bought a lot of designer clothes as a big spender. He also ordered expensive and beautiful dresses for Lily. The school's surveillance cameras caught his theft. "Are you going to press charges?" the police asked. Mike struggled to find some remaining dignity and self-esteem in front of Lily, unsure about confessing his theft. He had his eyes on my wallet and firmly believed the surveillance system was off. And he probably knew my carefree personality, having lost my wallet several times before. So, with a sense of luck, he went down a path of no return. Now, with pleading eyes, he begged me, "Samantha." I was just confused for a moment. "Can we settle this privately? I'll pay you back all the money." I smirked. "How are you going to repay me? There's still over $200,000 on the card. Now there's less than $90,000 left." His eyes turned red as he said helplessly, "I'll try to refund those plane tickets and cancel the trip. I won't go on my vacation." Frantically trying to cancel, he ended up unable to return even $1,000. The discount tickets were non-refundable, and the labels on the designer clothes had been removed. After struggling for a few hours, he could only get back some of the expenses for tickets and hotels. Finally, he reluctantly left his phone and tearfully said, "Give me some time, I'll definitely pay you back. Considering all the years of our friendship, spare me." I was sickened. "You owe me more than these 10,000. You can't repay it in this lifetime. As for those so-called feelings, they're just a disgrace from the first half of my life. How could I have been so blind to fall for someone like you?" I turned to the police. "Officer, I want to press charges." Despair filled Mike's eyes as he looked at me, filled with regret. His parents held my hand and pleaded, "Please give him a chance. He's still young. If he goes to jail, his life will be ruined. We will compensate you. We will. He's our only son. If we lose him, how can we go on living?" I wasn't soft-hearted. I didn't force him to steal. It was his vanity that got the best of him. The amount may be substantial, but with a fresh start, he could reform and soon be back on his feet. Mike, being of age, was sentenced to 3 years in court with irrefutable evidence against him. He trembled uncontrollably when the police took him away. As he passed by me, he fell to his knees crying and begging for mercy. "Samantha, I was wrong. Please save me. I don't want to go to jail." I gave him a gentle push with my foot. "You reap what you sow." I then turned and walked away confidently. The court ordered Mike to compensate all my losses. As a beneficiary of the stolen money, Lily also had to pay a part of the restitution, totaling 34,250 yen. While not a huge sum, it was enough to crush Lily. She stormed into my apartment, launching a barrage of accusations. "How heartless can you be? Mike treated you so well before. He's still your boyfriend. And you actually sent him to jail." I chuckled. "So you do know he's my boyfriend? Making a scene as if everyone doesn't know your illicit relationship with him? Your noble words. Do you expect me to forgive the ridiculous bond between you two and avoid reimbursement? Drop the act. No princess treatment here without the princess demeanor." She stomped her foot in anger. "I won't pay you back. Also, return the money stolen from your house, or I'll report you to the police." I pretended confusion, looking at her. "Using the money Mike stole from me makes you feel righteous." She nodded proudly. "Yes, it's your parents' money after all. I've charmed them now, and all their future money will be given to me. I just took a little thing in advance. What's the big deal? Besides, that money was stolen by Mike. What does it have to do with me? I didn't force him to steal. He was the one acting dumb like a pig, shedding a few tears. And he's like a devoted dog, wagging his tail behind me." I replied, seeing her entirely different from her public persona. I wasn't surprised at all. In the past life, she was the same, not wanting to lower my status by arguing with her. I closed the door, leaving her with just one sentence. If you don't repay the money by the 30th of this month, I'll request court enforcement. The next day, my parents showed up with a tearful Lily. Samantha, we've raised you all these years, and this is how you treat your parents. I squinted at them. Am I supposed to scold you or hit you? You let her manipulate you, pretending to be oblivious. Why come to me with this? My mom's eyes turned cold. Is it just a few tens of thousands? Is it worth pressuring Lily like this? I smiled at her. Of course it is. Wasn't that my money to begin with? How about you repay on her behalf? They had been supporting themselves during this time when I wasn't home. But after years of indulgence, their savings were limited. My mom's face turned red, unable to say a word. My dad tried to assert his authority as a parent. You're still our daughter, and your money is our money. Your property should rightfully include our share. I said firmly, I disagree. If you're not satisfied, you can take me to court. If the judge rules in your favor, then I'll have nothing more to say. My parents exchanged glances, instantly abandoning the idea. The chances of winning the lawsuit were low, and they knew how absurd their demand for money was. In the end, my mom gritted her teeth and said, I don't know how I raised such a disobedient child. From today, I will sever ties with you unless you hand over your money for safekeeping. Otherwise, we'll no longer be your parents. I did value family bonds before. Unfortunately, in the past life, I realized my parents seemed somehow different from others. They could easily be deceived, disregard my feelings, and hastily cremate me like Mike, who had no blood relation, allowing Lily to take over my life. That scene flashed before my eyes. My gaze turned icy. Fine. I have no parents, and you have no daughter. The two stood there dumbfounded, seemingly not expecting my easy agreement, but the words were spoken, and there was no turning back. The two left in a daze. As Lily left, her tail was nearly wagging to the sky. I said I'd become the only girl in the household. Lily, your tough days are coming. I smiled. Keep going, only 3 more days until the 30th. Since I was no longer Johnny and Susan's daughter, I had no reason to be merciful. I contacted a second-hand property company and sold the villa they lived in. When I led the staff to collect the property, Johnny and Susan were furious. How dare you sell our house? I replied calmly, just because the house is in my name. Is that reason enough? They watched helplessly as we signed the contract, with Lily continuously howling on the side. Uncle and Auntie, you can't let her sell the house. Where will I live in the future? Wasn't this your house? Susan glared at me through gritted teeth. Do you have to be so heartless? Johnny was infuriated. We shouldn't have put the house in her name in the first place. I signed the last letter and looked up at them. I paid for the house, so I have the right to dispose of it. It's still early, so pack up and move out. They glared at me with resentment, but I didn't care. On the 30th, court officials accompanied me for the compulsory payment enforcement. Realizing they couldn't stay still, representatives from the property company joined us to find the family of 3. At first, they refused to compensate, but when the staff got serious, they reluctantly gave me compensation out of fear of facing criminal responsibility. The real estate company kicked them out without giving them time to pack up, and their belongings were left scattered everywhere. Finally, a few of them stood outside the tightly locked gate, unable to control their tears. They should have killed her from the start. Lily cried so hard she couldn't even speak properly. Uncle, Aunt, are you just gonna watch her take everything away? She's your daughter. She should give all the money to you. Maybe feeling desperate, Johnny gritted his teeth and said, Let's go sue her. The lawsuit itself was never in doubt. I was an adult, capable of managing my own finances. They couldn't take a penny and had to compensate me for the losses incurred in the lawsuit as tens of thousands of dollars were handed over to me. Johnny cursed resentfully. My own daughter, not as caring as a niece. What have I done wrong? I laughed until tears came out, grabbed my phone, and played them 2 videos. In the first video, under the villa, Lily arrogantly yelled at me, I know, you must have tilted the scales toward me. Are you getting anxious? I will definitely win their love completely and kick you out. So what? Haven't I survived successfully? They're doomed. Their existence is just for me to live. And I will take all your belongings and make you beg to me like a dog. In the second video, at the entrance of the apartment, Lily was furious. Yeah, isn't it your parents' money? They're already wrapped around my finger. All the money will be given to me if I use a bit in advance. So what? Besides, that money was stolen by Mike. What does it have to do with me? I didn't force him to steal, did I? He was just stupid, as dumb as a pig, shedding a few tears, and he'd follow me around like a dog. Her tone dragged on, her self-righteous attitude unmistakable. Johnny and Susan stared in shock at Lily. Lily widened her eyes, pointed at me, and exclaimed, "You recorded it?" Ignoring her, I looked at Johnny and Susan. "You two are also like dogs." Johnny angrily rebuked and slapped Lily's face. "How can you be so bad at such a young age, causing trouble for your own parents, materialistic in vain, even instigating discord in our family?" Susan indignantly slapped her. "You destroyed my happy home!" Lily started crying. This was her most tragic meltdown, stomping her feet and going out of control. Johnny directly grabbed her collar, lifted her up, and threw her out forcefully. "How much have you harmed us? And you still have the nerve to cause a scene?" Susan coldly watched. "The money we compensated for you. You must return it all to us." Lily screamed on the ground. "I didn't force you. You voluntarily compensated me." The scene was chaotic, but I'd already walked away. The results were out, and I successfully got into one of the top universities in the country. Emily and I had planned to go on a trip. We packed up and had fun for a while. During this time, Emily told me a lot of things. After Lily was beaten, Johnny and Susan sent her back to her hometown. She begged bitterly with tears and snot, clinging to Susan's legs. "Don't send me back. I will change. I will change. If I go back, I won't have money for college. My uncle will force me to marry in exchange for a dowry." Susan kicked her away. "Get lost, still pretending in front of us. Our family doesn't want to see you anymore." After she went back, she was indeed forced to marry an old man in his 40s with 3 kids in exchange for a 10,000 yuan dowry. Hearing this, I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. Lily had pretended to be pitiful so many times, and Johnny had been so affectionate so many times. But only this time, the most pitiful, she didn't receive any pity from anyone. Upon returning from the trip, 3 days before the start of school, the couple found me again. They stood at the door, rubbing their hands. With my cold gaze, Johnny spoke first. "Daughter, Dad and Mom were deceived by Lily before. You are our biological daughter. Can you give us another chance to compensate you properly?" Susan also cried, holding my hand. "You are the flesh that Mom carried for 10 months. How can Mom really sever the mother-daughter relationship with you?" Looking at their sincere eyes, I was momentarily transported back to the time before Lily appeared. But memories had blurred, and the yellowed photos could never be restored. I pulled back my hand. "I'm sorry, I don't know you." They cried and begged, using the term daughter in an attempt to pick up the filial affection that had been trampled under their feet. I simply closed the door in the middle of the night, sat on the windowsill staring at the neon lights of the bustling city, feeling an indescribable sense of relief. I went to university and started a new life here. In my sophomore year, I heard that Lily had died back in her hometown. She was just a regular village girl who climbed up to my house with lofty ambitions. After enjoying a good time here, she returned home dissatisfied, feeling unhappy every day and shedding tears. The guy felt unlucky and wanted to call off the marriage. Turns out the bride price had already been squandered by her uncle, and the guy didn't want to lose both the person and the money. Even though he didn't send her back, he never treated her kindly again. The man also loved drinking, and whenever he was displeased, she would face his fists and kicks. Unable to bear it, she wanted to escape, but ended up getting beaten by her in-laws. Later, she became pregnant, and her in-laws' attitude improved slightly. To prevent her from running away, they locked her in a room. She tried to escape through the window, but accidentally fell to the ground. Though it was only from the 3rd floor, being far along in her pregnancy, it was a tragic end for her and her child. Hearing all this, I didn't feel sorry for her. She wasn't a good person either. If she hadn't been selfish, perhaps her parents wouldn't have lost their lives. It was all her retribution.